Thank you, thank you. Can I first make sure that you leave the stage? That I have a sphere of no one, so that I can take off the mask. And I will begin by greeting the panelists. Carol, Ann, you look great on screen.
Thank you.
KP, you are obviously used to TV as a legislator.
Thank you.
And Darryl, you need to put on some makeup.
Sorry about that.
I remember last year, I kicked off the first panel by promising that it will be as good as coffee. And just now, I went outside thinking, well, you know what, maybe I'll catch some coffee. Little did I realize that, of course, with the special arrangement we have for today's forum, there is no coffee. Not only that, there is no coffee break. Every session is back-to-back with each other, so I'm going to keep time, okay? There is no buffer in today's discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to ask for a map. This is sort of the equivalent of coffee that I hope to wake everyone up. While we bring up the map, let me also tell everyone on screen that this feels quite connected. I actually have 6 screens surrounding me. I have 2 in front of me, 1 on my lap, 2 on the coffee table, and 1 behind me. So I'm fully connected to all of you, very befitting of today's topic of connectivity. And today we're talking about connectivity with the Greater Bay Area. And so I've asked to bring up the map. There are, as you can see on the map, 9 plus 2, 11 cities in Greater Bay Area. And whoever actually made this map also took the trouble to put in population and GDP numbers. I'm sure for many of you participating in the forum, you're familiar with those numbers. My first question, this is the equivalent of coffee to everyone participating, is if you can, participate in the polling by answering a very simple question. How many of these 11 Greater Bay Area cities have you ever been to? The choices are 0 to 3, choice B, 4 to 7, and choice C, 8 to 11. When I first saw the question, I thought, why would we provide for 0? Surely most of you would have been to at least 1. But anyway, we are very inclusive. So the 3 choices are 0 to 3, 4 to 7, and 8 to 11. How many of the 11 Greater Bay Area cities have you been to? Shall we start the polling? Great. I'm sure the computer has tallied up the number, but let me first review my answer, okay? My personal answer. I've actually been to 9. I didn't realize until just now I've been to 9. Wow, I'm actually quite connected. Let's look at how our participants are faring. 20% say 0 to 3, more than half, 55, say 4 to 7, and just over a quarter says 8 to 11. So I'm with the last quarter. This, I thought, would be one of the clearest way to see how connected our people, not just in Hong Kong, but everyone around the forum are to the Greater Bay Area. And I'm actually really glad to see that 3/4, more than 3/4, actually fully 80% of the participants are reporting that we've been to more than half the cities in the 11. And that's actually counting for the fact that there are some northern cities, which as finance professionals, we generally don't go visit, although they're actually beautiful. For those of you who are interested in going to, for example, Zhaoqing is a beautiful city with quite a lot of history just north of the mountains in Guangdong. So its climates are slightly different. It actually gets snow and actually, you know what, talking about it, maybe we'll get skiing there sometime. All right, now, with that in mind, I'm going to ask the first question of our panelists. Obviously, we can see our participants are quite connected to the Greater Bay Area. Now, zooming back to insurance and financial services, what do you think are the opportunities that this connectivity will bring us, and how are we going to capture those opportunities? I'll start with KP.
Good morning, Lawrence. With the substantial growth of the mainland economy in recent years, there has been great demand for wealth or risk management products in mainland. That was reflected in the growth of the policies sold to mainland visitors, which peaked out in 2016 with new premiums sold at Hong Kong dollar 72 billion, which account for almost 40% of the new sales in that year. For the first 3 quarters this year, the Hong Kong new life insurance premium was Hong Kong dollar 92 billion, excluding policies sold to mainland visitors, which now only account for about 7% of the total new premium because of COVID-19, resulting in very little traffic between Hong Kong and mainland. I just want to point out that Hong Kong business alone can generate Hong Kong dollar 92 billion in 3 quarters. If you imagine the business potential in GBA, which has a potential of which has a population of 10 times Hong Kong, in future, given time and the right strategies, I think achieving 5 times more, that is over 500 billion new premium every year, is not a dream. The challenge is how to make it happen, given so many mainland insurance companies already operating very well in GBA. I believe the key is to ensure that Hong Kong insurance products continue to be the preferred choice in GBA. I think Insurance Authority and the Hong Kong Federation of Insurers need to do 3 things. IA should ask Hong FI to join the negotiation team regarding the setup of the after-sales support center to ensure that the interests of the Hong Kong insurers are protected in the negotiation process. In case there are high-level decisions to be made that do not look good for Hong Kong insurers, please let me know so that we may need to seek assistance from the appropriate senior government officials, or even to the CEO of Hong Kong SAR, as she is a strong supporter of the insurance industry. The IA Hong FI team should work closely with the mainland government body to ensure that the views of the Hong Kong insurers on the operation mode in GBA are fully considered before the final decision is made. The first item on our agenda is the after-sales service center in the mainland cities of GBA to provide Hong Kong, Macau, and the mainland residents who are holders of Hong Kong policy with comprehensive support in different areas, including inquiries, claims, and renewal of policy. That applies to the Metro Insurance Connect and the Insurance Connect, which are coming up items in the list of GBA initiatives. IA and FI should also keep the negotiation process transparent and conduct regular meetings and briefing for the insurers so the insurers are able to know the progress and given the chance to give their views and able to ask questions. The insurers should be well informed so that they are well prepared. I think our fellow insurers also need to do 3 things. First of all, we need to understand the latest development of the GBA initiative and give your feedbacks to Hong Kong FI. Secondly, really understand the need of the GBA residents who may have wealth or risk management needs different from the Hong Kong population, and insurers may need to adjust their products or development suitable products to address the needs of GBA residents. Finally, prepare the after-sales support centers in GBA, which will be coming up hopefully within 1 year. Thank you.
Thank you, KP. I saw Clement taking copious notes, so I'm sure Clement took down your suggestions of involving the industry in negotiation. And Carol, I'm going to give you some extra time before I call on you so that you can also take into account what KP says. Darryl, can I turn next to you? Of all the institutions in Hong Kong, the HKMA probably has the most diverse and deep involvement in the various connects. And I mean, after all, it's the flow of money that drives a lot of things. So I'm going to turn to you and ask the question of what can the industry, both the insurance industry and the financial industry in the wider sense, do to capture and build on the connectivity that we have seen?
Thank you, Laurence, for that question, and good morning to everyone. I think to start with, let's look at the key drivers for GBA. You mentioned connectivity, and that's the magic word. But behind all these, I think there are a few trends going forward that we need to take into account. One is domestic consumption, because when we look at the new models championed by the central government, there's actually this twin circulation of internal circulation as well as external circulation. So how to boost domestic consumption to support the long-term growth of the economy is one key driver. The second thing is innovation and technology, and this is particularly relevant in the GBA context. And I think the third driver would be a green and sustainable finance to support the development of GBA as a more livable community for the over 7 million people living in this area. So I think finance or financial institutions are poised to play a big role in terms of financing the real economy. So when we're talking about how to support the businesses in their transformation, both in terms of technological upgrade, as well as in terms of a greener environment, how to transform themselves from brown companies to green companies, for example. And then the second thing would be how to manage wealth. Now, we're talking about a population that has already a per capita income comparable to a middle income economy. And then there's tremendous potential out there. For example, close to 1/4 of the high net worth individual in Greater China is actually live in the GBA area. So just to imagine that this is a very market of tremendous potential, tremendous growth potential. So how we help the people, the residents of GBA manage their wealth, that's another great opportunity. And of course, also for corporates or individuals, how to help them manage their financial risk, how to diversify their investment. I think that would be one thing that financial institutions in Hong Kong can continue to play a great part. And then don't forget that there is actually in this greening effort, there is a lot of investment required of infrastructure for cleaning up the air, to turn it less carbon concentrated. I mean, there will be a lot of opportunities in investing in green infrastructure as well. I mean, so all these are actually require a lot of capital investment. And I do think that the Hong Kong financial sector will benefit a great deal. Now, coming to what we in the financial sector can do as a whole to capture those opportunities, I think, first of all, we got to have a better understanding about the future direction of GBA, the growth potential. Now, we talk about the real economy and the wealth. So what actually would be the trajectory of the growth pattern, and what the maybe the restructuring of the economy will take shape, how it will take shape? I mean, all these are questions that we together will need to look at and factor into our planning, both for the business as well as for the government and regulators, because for the government and regulator, we also have a role to play in opening up more policy headroom for our financial institutions to capture those opportunities. Later on, I can discuss further efforts in this regard in terms of building up our various connect schemes, but definitely this is one thing that we got to work together with the industry. And then I think also for the industry is how you build that capacity to groom the talent. Recently, there is a survey with the banking industry, and then one of the gap that they identify in terms of talent is the knowledge about the GPA. So you can't have a workforce that understand not enough about the GBA, and while at the same time you want to capture the opportunities and serve the clients there. So we just simply we can't do that. So in the process, how we broaden our bench of talent to support that longer term growth, I think is something that we together with the financial industry will have to look at. I'll probably pause here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Darryl. I got tech, I got green, I heard wealth management from you, and I heard you spending the last minute talking about more knowledge of GBA, which prompts me to think, you know what, Darryl, we have known each other for a very long time. Neither you nor I actually go do business in GBA. So let's hear from the woman here who does the most business in GBA. She will probably have the reverse of what you have said. She will tell us how much knowledge the industry already has about GBA. So Anne, can I turn to you?
Sure, Laurence, thank you very much. And I think you started out by saying how we can grab opportunities in the GBA. And I think the financial industry is definitely very excited about it. They're the cross-border policy-related issues which are being worked on under the outline development plan for GBA, and also the list of 30 articles for the financial services industry. While policy breakthroughs and development may take some time, and I believe KP and regulators are all working hard on it, and I think Hong Kong's financial service provider can really start seizing the opportunities, as Darryl had said, understanding the market, learning about what the customer's needs are. The penetration of insurance product usage, I think, is still at the lower end in most cities. So it will take some work to help potential users understand their needs for insurance, you know, how to gain access to products, payment channels, and to get prompt services, etc. And most important part of all is to build trust. GBA residents, and I think in the 9+2 cities, have a lot of similarities. And I think we all, you know, we use similar language, we write the same things and all that. But habits, lifestyle, beliefs, worries, beliefs, they can be very different. And so that would make effective communication a total nightmare. We've learned a lot about that when dealing with very simple services like cross-border banking accounts opening, payment tools and all that. I can't say we know thoroughly. It's still work in progress, but there's a lot to be worked on. So we simply cannot just rely on success in the past when customers just come to us. When we are talking about a big market coming from 7 million to 70 million. So the burden of overcoming hurdles really rested on the supply side. So we need to look at the longer term and to have services that would fit the needs of the GBA citizens wherever their primary cities of residence are. And also to be able to communicate effectively and understanding the market and knowing what the needs are. Now, the second point I think we need to get ready for is that China is very well adapted to the use of fintech. And the Hong Kong insurance industry, we are very much, very reliant on the personal touch still. We rely on person-to-person selling. We rely on even on communication and on risk management overall. So I think this is something that our industry in Hong Kong really needs to catch up on. We need to institutionalize how to do our innovation within our organization and also integration. This is not something probably not just the work of IT, but the entire business. How do we work ourselves together so that the technology strategy, the reach to customer, the control, the after sales processes, and all that can be done electronically. This is not something that could be done overnight, but it will take quite some time. And take a pause here too.
Thank you, Anne. And I don't know whether you were responding to me or whether you actually really did plan that way and I just forecast the way you are going to organize the topic. You did go from knowledge backward to technology. So thank you very much for...
I was responding to you.
Thank you, Anne. It really goes to show that, you know what, market practitioners are the most adept. I can throw anything at you and you're going to respond. But Anne talked about the Greater Bay Area speaking the same language. We have many similarities, which reminded me of a recent episode. I recently took my kids to the pediatrician for the regular checkup. And at regular checkup, the pediatrician would weigh my kids and measure height, and they would plot the weight and height on the chart. For those of you who still remembers, there are these charts with a curve that tells you whether the child is a medium, slightly on the big side, slightly on the more side. And the pediatrician told me where my kids fell within that chart, and I got interested, so I asked her, oh, that chart, is it international? Is it Western? Is it Hong Kong specific? What is it? It's an English chart. I can see the English printing on it. And she said, oh, this is actually a Guangdong chart. And I got really interested that even at a very base level, something apparently completely unrelated to finance, we're building on common data. And it's that commonality that brings us together that actually, I suspect, will mean there are special opportunities for insurers. The similarity in our background, in our biology, in our build, in our habits, in what we eat, will probably drive a lot of the insurance calculations and will make insurers that has Hong Kong experience and run out of Hong Kong into Greater Bay Area to have a unique advantage. But that also, I suspect, also means that we need to be aware that since much of that data comes from across the border, they are going to have a major advantage too. And so we, as Anne says, we have to gear up to look at all that data in some tech-friendly and tech-savvy way. Now, one of the things that the last three panelists have all touched on is policy. And Carol, so that's a tall order to you. Now, what are some of the policy response and promises that you can deliver to the questions of how to help the insurance sector and the financial service industry capture the opportunities in the Greater Bay Area?
Thank you, Laurence. So yes, here I touch on the policies and what the IA, the Insurance Authority, as insurance regulator can do, to support and to seize the opportunity of GBA. Before I start, I want to just recap, I remember Laurence mentioned about the keywords, connectivity. So the policy objective underlying the GBA development, apart from connectivity, there's also another word of complementary. You may recall, the outline development plan for GBA, and also in the latest circular number 95, issued by the Mainland financial regulators in May this year, has provided insights on the role of Hong Kong insurance sector in the GBA development. And also, as announced, by the CE in her policy address recently, we are now working with the Mainland authorities to press ahead with the proposal under the framework of SIPA for the Hong Kong insurance industry to establish service centers in GBA to provide a full range of after-sales services. So that is what, to respond to KP, the three things that the IA should do. We are currently working extensively on it. And also, regarding the unilateral recognition policy for motor insurance policies for the Hong Kong vehicles, using the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, we are also working on it as well. So these would be the very important steps for our industry to tap into the GBA. And of course, to seize these opportunities, we need to be ready and alert. So I'm sure, the industry is already gearing up for the after-sales service centers and also the development of innovative products. We are working closely with the industry body and the task force on GBA on all the above initiatives. And rest assured that we will definitely closely engage our industry during the discussions with all stakeholders.
Thank you, Carol.
Going ahead, sorry, I still have 2024, right? I just want to add something responsible to Anne, what Anne said about, this tech. Another, for the complementary role, I want to add, apart from the complementary role of of our functions, there's also complementary role in terms of the talent pool on insurance, especially on insurtech talents. So I recall it has been discussed in the Actuarial Society of Hong Kong Forum about 2 weeks ago that our professional actuaries in Hong Kong are encouraged to adapt with the digital development. And also the insurtech talents in Hong Kong are encouraged to have closer interaction with the mainland insurtech talents to embed insurtech into product innovation. So this is something I want to add in terms of our complementary role. Okay.
Thank you, Carol. We have heard 4 panelists talk about opportunities, policy support, and some of the things that we need to do. It's been generally positive. I want to challenge all 4 of you, and I will do that by inviting the participants to consider our next set of polling questions. It's actually a set. It's going to ask, what do you think are the competitive advantages from the perspective of Hong Kong users and from the perspective of mainland users? So the first question is going to be, what do you think is the competitive edge of Hong Kong insurance and financial services from the perspective of Hong Kong users? And the choices are choice of products, international network, experience, service standard, bilingual environment, and regulation. So A to F. So please answer that question from the Hong Kong user's perspective first. And we are going to switch to, no, we have got 30 seconds for you to answer that question from the Hong Kong user's perspective. And then you're going to have a chance to answer the same question from the mainland perspective. I just want to see whether there's some perceived similarities or difference between how we would view Hong Kong's competitive advantage differently on the 2 sides of the border. So that's the first question, or the first whack at the question from the Hong Kong perspective. Let's take a second attempt at the question from the mainland perspective. So the same question, what do you think is Hong Kong's competitive advantage, but coming from the mainland perspective? The choices are choice of products, international network, experience, service standard, bilingual environment, and regulation. Wonderful. Now let's see whether those 2 questions give us any insight into how, from 2 perspectives, we would look at our advantage, our competitive advantage in Hong Kong. From the Hong Kong perspective, interesting. It's fairly even among A to D and F. Interestingly, even from the Hong Kong perspective, the bilingual environment doesn't help that much. Well, that's understandable, right? If we are operating in the Greater Bay Area, the fact that Hong Kong has a English familiarity, it's not going to count for as much. Now let's look at the mainland. Our participants think that from the mainland perspective, interesting. You know what? I haven't done statistics for many, many years. I actually did have a background in statistics. But without attempting to do statistics on screen, it looks like the split is about the same. It's fairly even, A to D and F, with a dip at E. So if I can be so bold to summarize, it seems that from both perspectives, we have advantage in choice of products, international network, experience, probably perceived to be more important from the mainland perspective, and then service standard and regulation, and from both perspectives, we're not thinking that the bilingual familiarity is going to put us in a particularly advantageous position. Now, with all that in mind, maybe it doesn't review as much as I would have hoped, but let me force the four panelists to speak of the negative. KP, what do you think are things that are really going to put us in difficulty? So don't just talk about the competitive advantages, talk about the competitive disadvantages too.
Laurence, you're putting me in a very difficult position because we are supposed to talk about nice things about Hong Kong, about our competitive edge. So I will have to stick to our competitive edge first, and then I will answer your question, you know. I'm trying to behave like a government official, where they always never answer our question. So let me tell you about the advantages we have, but I try to keep it short and then leave some time for your question. I think once we are given the ability to compete freely in the GBA with the local insurers, I think the Hong Kong industry as a whole will be selling the brand, what we call the Hong Kong insurance products. I think I can think of at least 7 competitive edges. First of all is the choice of products. Normally, Hong Kong insurers are able to offer over 20 products, which range from risk management to wealth management, investment linked to non-investment linked, choice of currencies from Hong Kong dollar, renminbi, and US dollar. With flexible products, Hong Kong insurers offer different features and riders that are tailor-made for customers with different needs. We also have fast product innovation. Experience brought by foreign insurers are able to speed up the product innovation and meet the fast-changing market needs. Professional image of the insurer, I think that's one of the most important advantages we have in Hong Kong. Hong Kong insurers still enjoy the image of professionalism and reliability. Many of them have long history with sound operation track record and meet the international standard of practice and risk management. We also treat our customer fairly, and we have a quick handling of claims. So that is our core operating principle, which is reflected from product design to selling process. Regarding the regulation of insurance companies, I think insurance regulatory framework is really strong in Hong Kong with sound track record of no failure of insurance company for many years. Insurers are well regulated in capital requirement and solvency ratio, giving strong protection to the customer. Of course, I want the IA to be less rigorous in the regulation because I think we have already too much regulation. Please give us a break, especially during COVID-19 when we are not able to do business. So please let us have some coffee time, okay? We have also attractive product pricing because Hong Kong insurers enjoy the flexibility of investment globally with more choice of investment assets over the world. Hong Kong insurers can price products which are more favorable with favorable returns, and thus we can offer competitive premium rates to customers. So that are the good things about our industry. So you're right. Actually, we should be more concerned what is our problem. I think our problem is how to really get our foot in GBA. I think that is the top problem because when you are negotiating a even more heavily regulated industry in China, one thing I'm really not happy is that for so many years under CIPRES, there's really no breakthrough for the Hong Kong insurance industry. So if you look at the banks, they're able to get lower entry requirement in terms of capital, but for Hong Kong insurance company, it has never changed. So I think it is time that I think on the mainland side, they should really understand that letting more insurance companies to go into China, into GBA, is actually to the benefit of China. I think one concern is they're always thinking that they are benefiting the insurance company in Hong Kong. But I understand there are some insurers in Hong Kong they're actually thinking about when we sell more policy in Hong Kong, they can actually package all these funds, channel it back to buy products or funds in China, so that they are actually two-way communication. It not only benefit the Hong Kong company, but also benefit the mainland as well, because there are actually more investment product with higher yields. When we are able to invest in renminbi products, they are much better yields. So that would benefit the both sides. But because for the benefit of time, I just want to point out one major problem or hurdle we are going to face is how Hong Kong insurers can be treated fairly, given the due respect and also recognize the importance of and the contribution of the Hong Kong insurer we are going to make to GBA. I think that's the key point.
Thank you, KB.
Thank you, Laurence. Yeah.
Speaking truly as the legislative representative of the insurance industry, you're not only a representative, you're also an ambassador. You managed to turn, you managed to turn my question, my solicitation of saying challenges into yet another call for your industry. That is.
I'm trying to say something from my heart, you know.
Well done, KP. And I'm going to turn next to you. Perhaps a balance of both the opportunities and the challenges. But unfortunately, I'm going to try to ask the next three panelists to try to keep to 2 minutes if I can. I know I'm limiting your time, but I'm seeing questions streaming in already, and I would like to be able to give those an opportunity too. So, Anne.
Okay, Laurence, you did throw us a curveball there. We're supposed to talk about the competitive edge, but I think there's, for every competitive edge, there's also a negative side that I could bring out. Well, let's start with a very, very important one, or key competitive edge, I think, in Hong Kong's insurance market. We're very well established with local, mainland, and international operators. We have access to global and mainland capital markets investment tools, and we also have robust and mature risk management framework. So diversified investment opportunities balanced with consumer protection and regulations do give us an edge when it comes to enhancing return for our policyholders and shareholders. Now, on top of that, when we zoom into connectivity within GBA, I think the opportunities do multiply. But then for every positive thing, there's also a negative thing. So I've got a list of things that I'm going to quickly go through. First is the size of the market. Of course, is 7 million versus our 70 million. So I think on the one side is opportunity. On the other side is we really do have a lot to learn about what our potential market is. So, you know, that is something that if we're not fast enough, would not work to our advantage as much as we think it would. Now, on the second point is about technology. GBA, Guangdong, Shenzhen, they're well advanced in technology. Hong Kong has no lack of insurance professionals, and this is something that we need to work with in terms of collaboration on InsurTech, and that would take us into many possibilities in the future. But again, this is something that we need to catch up on rather than just be a leader in that pack. Opportunities for Hong Kong professionals in mainlands are very foreseeable. And the other point is on payment. I think the most difficult problem for mainland residents to buy insurance in Hong Kong pre-COVID was probably not about coming here, but about payment processing. So the closed loop capital flow to be introduced under the Wealth Management Connect will actually pave the path for regulated cross-border payment, if we will, when the Insurance Connect comes along. Not sure whether that would be a part of it, but that should help us with cutting time for preparation. Product choices, Pierre also talked about that. I think other than product types, I think Hong Kong players have long been providing US dollar, Hong Kong dollar, and renminbi denominated policies. So that by itself is an edge for customers' asset allocation. So that would also bring us to the point on asset management. Hong Kong, with the variety of banking services, the family office, succession planning services, trust and tax advisory services, all these together would help shape the competitive edge of Hong Kong to supplement what the GBA cities have to offer. Now, the last point I want to make, probably not an edge, but probably an opportunity, is about mainland's elderly care development, which is a state strategy. And they're very attractive service proposition. And there's the availability of space in GBA, which Hong Kong is so lack of. Also the cross-border collaboration on medical services, use of technology, data, etc. So Hong Kong seniors community may find GBA a natural solution for retirement living or traveling. So this would also provide a vertical service and integration and investment opportunities for insurers. So I'll stop there in view of time.
Thank you, and I hope someone was taking notes of that, and I think has touched on 6 or 7 points, all of which will be worth unpacking. Darryl, let me turn to you. 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I think the survey just now is very insightful. In terms of the competitive edge, I would tend to think that we're actually, going forward, we should concentrate on what we do best. And to me, it's the ecosystem here. It's actually an amalgamation of all the factors that makes a great international financial center. Now, we're talking about a total solution, a one-stop shop. So whoever needs to finance, they can just come to Hong Kong and then get whatever they need. So if you look at the questionnaire just now, I mean, people would value the choice of products here in Hong Kong. They would value the international network here in Hong Kong, as well as the regulation, although some of our regulators may not agree with that point. But I do think that we are doing, well, a reasonably good job in terms of regulation. And that, I think the regulation part of it is important because it provides a level playing field and a very rule-based system that all financial institutions can operate. And then it also provides the kind of protection required for investors. So now just focusing a bit on the regulation side, for the GBA, I think we are working very closely with our mainland counterparts, the regulators, and how to open up more opportunities as well as to facilitate better connectivity and capital flows between the two places in terms of facilitating businesses operation as well as helping individuals to diversify their investment to reach more international products. So it's all these connect schemes that we are putting together. We already have Stock Connect. Now, next thing is Wealth Management Connect. And then very soon, we're starting work on the southbound Bond Connect. So through all this, what we call the bridges across the Shenzhen River, I think we are going to create a unique formula in Hong Kong that many other international financial centers, if they want to replicate what we have here in Hong Kong, we are actually making ourselves far more competitive in terms of our product offering. Okay, I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Darryl. Carol, I'm going to turn to you. But before that, Carol, let me also foreshadow that I now have a number of questions, several of which are actually for the IA. So you might want to keep your round-up short because I'm going to come back at you with some questions anyway.
Okay, thanks. Anyway, I try to make it short. I just want to echo what our panelist has just mentioned about. I mean, the integration, not only it brought about potential market, it also bring about competition. I just want to share with you, a recent example is that the CBIRC, the mainland regulator, they had issued a circular last month allowing insurers in the Kwangtung and Shenzhen to issue innovative GBA medical insurance product using a revised critical illness incident rates tables. So that is to respond to what Laurence just mentioned about they are already, using the GBA figures in terms of the pricing of the GBA products. But what does that mean? That means the pricing will be more competitive than ever. And no doubt, other GBA cities will continue to catch up in other areas as well. Then what shall we do? I mean, to sustain the competitive edge, just mentioned about this choice of products, our international network, and also the regulations. So what, I mean, our insurance and insurance industry, when they are developing the business proposition, they should ascertain the needs of the potential customers. And I mean, going back to the policy objective of our GBA integration, as Anne mentioned, is to build a quality living circle so as to provide an ideal place for the people, I mean, for the GBA citizens living and also for retiring in the GBA cities. What I want to say is insurers are urged to critically examine the insurance needs of the GBA citizens during different stages of their life cycle. So that is I want to emphasize. I guess all will agree, with the aging population, plus the pressure on elderly service facilities in Hong Kong, can our industry explore solutions, insurance solutions that facilitate them living their retirement life more flexibly across the different GBA cities? So innovative ideas may also be explored, like in collaboration with the relevant partners, like hospital organization in the GBA areas. Another point I really want to mention about is, with more people encouraged to live and work and start business here in the GBA cities, is there any innovative insurance solutions that can be offered to them such that they would not need to worry about the differences in coverage, the differences in requirement among different cities? So these are the questions I wish our insurers can think about when they are finding our niche. But finally, let me touch on, because Darryl mentioned about the wealth management. With our considering, the Insurance Connect, with the launch of the Wealth Management Connect, we hope, they will bring about experience and shed light on how we can tackle issues and create an environment to pave way for our future Insurance Connect. And as to the opportunities in the long run, Hong Kong, we need to find our roles, gradually changing, as other panelists mentioned, about wealth management and risk management centers, and which will be discussed in more detail in panel 2 under the Belt and Road initiatives. So allow me to do some advertisement. Okay, I'll stop here.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, we have roughly 3 minutes left. I see the MC is on stage. Am I being hurried? I will nonetheless take a few questions. Can I ask the panelists to attempt 30-second answers? Question 1, what is the biggest hurdle for Hong Kong insurance industry to realize opportunities in the Greater Bay? I know KP has already said access, Anne has said settlement. Darryl and Carol are going to say positive things. So let me go back to Anne. In addition to clearance, to settlement, what else?
I think technology, innovation is something that because it's not just about tech itself, but also regulations. We talked about that a lot because currently we are very reliant on face-to-face selling, face-to-face servicing, risk control, and all that is very manual. So this is something that we need to work on.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne. That's wonderful. You in fact squeeze in 2 hurdles. One is tech, and 2 is the regulators' approach to tech. And which takes me to the next question here is, do we expect convergence in regulation? Carol.
Before I respond to this question, can I just add on what Anne just mentioned about how the regulators can help to promote, the development of the insurance tech. Again, do some, advertisement about the Insurance Authority. We have the Future Task Force on InsurTech platform that you can, the industry can brainstorm and make proposals. And also, last Friday, the Hong Kong FI had jointly with the IA sent out a survey to the industry to understand more about their priorities and the needs in terms of the InsurTech, and definitely the InsurTech application into the GBA areas as well. Okay, so go back to the convergence. Rest assured that I've always mentioned during my last 2 responses that we are working closely with the mainland regulators and authorities, be it the CBIRC in Beijing and also, in the GBA area. We have close liaison and contact with the CBIRC in Shenzhen and Guangdong, as well as SAFE, when we are talking about this development in the after-sales service center. So we definitely will touch on about the divergence and also the convergence, how to facilitate, the user in the GBA area in terms of the compliance, as KP also mentioned about, we will not compromise on this trade customer fair protection policyholder issue, but on the other hand, we try to facilitate and to create, as I just mentioned in the first panel section, that less barrier and more connectivity.
Thank you, Carol. So I take from here the following words: connectivity, cooperation, and those are solutions towards convergence and more of a common market. Is that a way to summarize today's discussion? I apologize to the many participants who put in questions, but I didn't manage to control time well enough to get to them. May I encourage all of you to flip those questions to the next session, regardless of their topic anyway. We have seen our panelists go off topic, so don't worry about that. Without further ado, thank you very much to our 4 panelists and to all of you who participate through our polling and through questions and through this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.